Yeah, let's start with Ms. Moore then, and give each candidate time to introduce themselves and make a brief opening statement. And we'll start with you, ma'am.
Okay.
I didn't mean to run the show.
That's what it's not professional.
Okay, hi everybody, and I want to start by thanking everybody for coming out today. We give our time, but it's more important that you give your time to us, and I thank you for that. My name is Deb Moore, and I have left some of my biographies, and I placed them around a little bit, but I wanted to expound on that a little bit. I do come from a military family, and I joined the military myself. My mother is German, and my dad met her when he served in World War II. I do speak conversational German. I spent time traveling with my father for his 27-year career, but I joined the military myself at 21, and I came down here to Quarry Station in Pensacola where I trained as a cryptologist. I left here, went to England for 2 years where I was advanced quickly and filling the role as an NCO with just 2 years in service. Came back here to Quarry for advanced training and came to live on Gulf Beach Highway. And when I was there, I came to Perdido Beach because I liked it a lot better than the Pensacola Beach. It was much more serene out here. Then I was off to Crete, Greece for 3 years, where I met the man that eventually became my spouse. We came back here to Quarry Station again. I was an instructor, and we married here at Quarry Station. We had our rehearsal dinner at Marcello's, our reception at Jock's Courtyard, and got married at Quarry Station Chapel. So we left from there, but I ended up doing a 2-year unaccompanied tour in Japan. Unaccompanied meaning by myself, but he figured out a way into his schooling and the rest of his career. But we joined forces again after I left the service at 12 years as a master sergeant. We were having our first child, and it was time to get back together and raise our family. But we made our way back here in 2003 and raised our son along these Gulf shores. And he eventually became a lifeguard for 3 summers before heading off to college himself. And he's currently at USF, about to become a senior. This is the red card, I'm out of time. Okay. So this brings me back to here and my role as trying to serve you as your county commissioner. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chuck. Everybody, there are a lot of people in this room who know how hard it is to say no when Miss Kelly starts voluntolding you. I imagine you know more than any of us what that's like. As most of you know, my name is Doug Underhill. I am a Perdido Key resident. I actually live up until the storm anyway. Lived right across the street here on River Road. Have been a Perdido Key resident, or Perdido area resident since 2002 when the Navy brought me here. Actually there's a lot more people in the room who know my wife Wendy because she's been here with the kids while I've still been deploying. I am a son of a Navy chief. Joined the military in 1991 when the first Gulf War broke out. Spent the first 2 years of my enlisted life at Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, learning Arabic language and culture, and got my first bite at the Pensacola apple here in '93 when I came here for aircrew school. So I learned I thought I knew how to swim, but the Navy doesn't say you know how to swim until you can do it in a flight suit and steel-toed boots. And I learned how to do that right out here in the Bay. Also learned how to do push-ups the Navy way, which means here in Pensacola on fire ant beds. That's Pensacola. You know, when I was here for that trip, back then you saw your enlisted folks out in town an awful lot more, and we were really the foot soldiers of a lot of public service operations that were done here. So you saw us oftentimes doing security at softball games, the softball tournaments, things along those lines. So that was really how I got my first look at Escambia County and Perdido area in particular. And even as a young man, I realized this is good living. This is I didn't realize the term for it back then, but it's called work-life balance. Here on Perdido Key, we truly have that work-life balance. We have an opportunity to have a robust economy, but also, unlike most places like Arlington, Virginia, DC, the places that many of us come from, you can walk out of that office and be on the beach and barefoot within a couple of minutes. I've come to the conclusion that it's time to run for county commissioner because I know that what we need to do as a county commissioner is work together. And I believe that a collaborative team working together and respecting one another can make a difference here in Escambia County. Thank you. Was that 2 minutes?
Thank you everybody.
Talk to some of our lives in 2 minutes.
Whatever happens, I just want to first of all say thank you to all of you for giving me the honor and the privilege of working with you over these last 7 3/4 years. November's 8 years. It has been an honor and a privilege, and it's. We started our campaign 8 years ago. Nobody's man but yours, and then the second campaign, our theme was promises made, promises kept, and this theme is a lot done and more to come. Maureen and I moved here over 20 years ago, and although we're not on Perdido Key, we consider ourselves part of the Perdido region, being on Inverarity Point Road, the southwest region. And my main goal was what you had told me then that I had responded to, and that's to make sure the southwest region gets the attention it deserves. In many ways, we were the red-haired stepchild, and I feel we have done that. I think we have given good attention to the county commission and to the community to let everybody know that we don't want to be forgotten in the growth of this community. But we want quality growth, and we want balanced growth, and we want to be sensitive about our environment and the urban sprawl concept, which I'm totally against. In this period of time, we reduced the debt of this county $52 million. It was near $150 million. It's around 96 to 98 million now. We did it without raising taxes. We balanced the budget and raised the taxes. The property appraiser went up and down year to year on the values, but we didn't raise taxes, and I'm proud of that. And most important of all, we created a West End Advisory Committee. That committee is not only the Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center, but it's the team that helps get the input that I can miss sometime. No individual politician can do it alone. He needs a network. So we created a precinct leader system and coffee with the commissioner system. And last week, we had our 1,000th coffee with the commissioner in Escambia County on Navy Boulevard. I'd love to serve you 4 more years, and with your approval, I'd be honored to do so.
My name is Ray Guillory, and I'm also running for the Escambia County Commission, and I'm going to keep it under 2 minutes. I'm not going to sit up here and give you my biography. It's on my website. It's rayguillory.com. What I'm going to ask you to do is to go to rayguillory.com, these folks' website too, and take a look at where everybody stands on the issues and policy. Forget about the pretty faces you see up here. Forget about party affiliation. Go and look for the substance. Look where we stand on the issues. You know, I started this race over a year ago talking about issues in my working class neighborhood. And I can stand up here and I can say I've already won. Because these people have joined me in this race and also started talking about issues in these neighborhoods. So that's what I want you to do today when you leave here, is go take a look. Because the 4 people up here running for county commission, we're not auditioning for a Real Housewives of Atlanta. You know, it's not about personality. It should be about substance. It should be about policy. It should be about issues. And that's what I hope you guys will get away from today, is to come out of here knowing where we stand on the issues. Go home, check us out on our website. Like I said, forget about the pretty faces, forget about the fluff, look for the substance. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll start with the first question. The questions were submitted to us by a number of you out there, and they're certainly not, they're not my questions, but I adopt them because they're good questions. The first one concerns jobs. They mean a more stable community, less crime, a broader tax base, and as part of that, economic development is crucial. So I ask each of you, how would you, as a commissioner, create a community where companies want to relocate to or to expand in? And we'll start this front of
Thank you. That is absolutely the number one question that keeps coming up in every environment that we're in. And we have to keep in mind what the role of government is with regard to economic development. The role of government is to set the table and create the environment where the private sector can then raise up and build the economy. Okay? We live in an environment now where you can no longer manage the entire message about your community completely in a controlled environment. We spend an awful lot of time jet-setting around the world trying to bring jobs into the county. As soon as we're done with our sales pitch, however, the people that we're pitching to can then go online and they can see for themselves how we behave as a county and how we deal with things. Do we have a county government and all of our aspects of county government that work together to solve problems, to prevent problems from happening, solving them even before they become a crisis? And unfortunately, our track record here in Escambia County is not as good as it should be. The thing to keep in mind about economic development is think about the metaphor of a sports car. There's two ways to make that car go faster. You can keep pumping more power under the hood, and that's what we're doing now, where we're pumping a lot of money under the hood trying to entice people to come here. The other way that you can make it go faster, though, is to reduce the drag. And the way that metaphor works with the government is that we reduce the drags on our overall economic picture here. And those things are, how well does our government get along? How well do we work together? Getting our crime numbers down. It has often been said during this campaign that our crime numbers are not where they should be. That's probably true. We're not funding the sheriff's department at the level that it should be. And in fact, we have had some fairly onerous arguments over that subject. Our infrastructure is crumbling around us, and while I'm a big fan of reducing debt, and I'm a big fan absolutely of not raising taxes, if we do those things at the expense of our infrastructure, then we don't have the tools that we need to truly pitch Escambia County for what it's worth in building those as economic relationships. Thank you.
Since we took office, we've had over 4,000 new jobs coming to town. Not all of it was Navy Federal Credit Union. We created on October 7th to October 4th, 2007, I wrote an ordinance of law. It was the first time in the history of Escambia County where we created an economic development incentive, not only for new businesses to come to town, but to bolster the status of existing businesses already in town. It even had an incentive plan in it to help educate local people first before the volley of outsiders come in here with the jobs. I'm very proud of that record, and we have actually done more with less. We do go to Germany. I went to Germany, Hamburg, Berlin, Paris, and Farnborough. And if you're not going to get in the game, then you're on the outside looking in. Hans Weber, the head of operations of Airbus, said to me, "What are you doing to improve infrastructure, education, widening the roads, water and sewer issues? What are you doing to improve that, Commissioner?" It's an absolute essential need that when we talk about leadership, we talk about not just what makes you and I happy today, but what we may need to do to accommodate the growth in the future, whether we like the growth or not. If we are a community of 300,000 people today, do you want me to replace the pipe for 300,000 people, or do you want me to replace the pipe underground for the 600,000 people who will be here tomorrow? That's planning, that's a vision, and that's also been part of the problem with our recent flooding. We created the Stormwater Task Force to show not only you, but the Europeans were serious about fixing the infrastructure. That was my idea, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of the camaraderie of spirit with our fellow commissioners. We voted that in unanimously. We have a whole future ahead of us of great economic opportunities, and the trick is to create the right infrastructure. We did so by widening 9 Mile Road and a new $12 million allocation we're getting soon from the Department of Transportation on the exit entrance ramp on Interstate 10.
So often when we talk about economic development in Escambia County, we're always talking about from the outside in. And I think that we need to start talking about from the inside out. How do we raise up the local people in this economy to do better, to take these jobs if we do bring them in? And what do we do about the local businesses and how do we promote them here in Escambia County, the ones that we already have? When we get down to what economic development is going to take, what it's going to take to foster economic development here in Escambia County is better education. Not just the secondary education that we have through the elementary, junior high, and high school programs, but also the education that we have post-secondary. And what we can do is build public partnerships with the readily available resources that we already have, PSC, UWF, IMHC, unions, to create educational programs that train the workforce that we need for the future. Fundamentally, we can't attract businesses in Escambia County until we rebuild what we already have. From infrastructure to education. That's what they're looking for. When companies are looking to relocate, like myself, if I was a corporate president, I'm thinking about where am I going to move my company? I'm thinking about where are my kids going to be educated? Is my house going to flood if I build in this certain area? So we have to fix those problems before we can actually think beyond what's going to happen. And the second thing is in order to plan for economic development, we have to decide what kind of Pensacola we want to be. Do we actually need to be Escambia County with 650,000 residents in it? There are people that live in this community who live here for a reason. And we have to make sure that in that planning, that long-term planning, that we keep this community the kind of community we all want to live in to begin with. Thank you.
I'm not one to sit still and complain about what's not happening here in District 2 or Escambia County, and I promised an informed voice for you. So I'm ready to bring that from day one. My job as County Commissioner is to understand the needs of the community and provide that link to those answers. That's why I talked to Dr. Taylor at the Board of Education about workforce education and what we are doing right here. I've talked to, students are coming out of high school with industry certifications that they're earning these in high school right now. I've talked to CareerSource Escarosa, and also, did you know that at PSC they can graduate with an associate's degree and earn 6 figures right now? This was in your Pensacola News Journal today. Okay, so we have programs here in place. If our community is not aware of that, then we as leaders are missing the mark on that. So that's my role as a county administrator, to get that word out to the communities, get that word out to the people, so they know the opportunities that exist for them. I've also sat down with the director of our community redevelopment to learn about the CRAs out there. There are grants out there, $2,000 and $10,000 grants to help those businesses. Our chamber also has programs. They're called IWT, I believe, that will allow them to train their current workers to upgrade their skills. So we have a lot of programs out there. You have to be educated about what those programs are and bring that voice to the people in your community. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next question concerns Perdido Key specific. As County Commissioner of District 2, how would you address the development of Perdido Key, including the widening to 4 lanes or 3 lanes? And it's a 2-part question. Would you consider the Perdido Key master plan, which was conducted by architects DPZ and town planners who are, I guess, known for their work in Seaside, would you consider their master plan or not? And if so, why? And if not, why? start with Mr. Palladino.
Tacked on it, so let me get the obvious out of the way first. DBZ was fired because the administration fired it. I didn't know about it until after the fact. They were fired because they went out of bounds on their contract requirement. I was not part of that process, and I was informed about it after it happened, and when I studied the facts surrounding it, I agreed to it. The DOT had asked us not to put land widening issues of the road into the master plan contract with Duane. Duane's a fine firm, and their ideas were good, but what they were suggesting would have cost us several $100 million in eminent domain issues, acquiring land through a rerouting of the whole Perdido Key Drive Road, which would have dislocated many families as well. I do support the 4-laning of the State Road 292, but it really isn't because it's not a whimsical opinion. This decision about State Road 292 was made long before November 2006 when I was elected first time. The widening of the road is a function of safety issues first. And the widening of the road had measurement done that had the access and egress to the area in excess of 19 hours. DOT wanted to get it down under 14 hours. The 3-laning alone didn't work. Tommy Barfield, district head in Chipley, and Anand Prasad in Tallahassee said, Commissioner, tell the folks when you're challenged on this matter that we want the 4-laning, whether you're commissioner or not because we're trying to turn it into a freeway like on the Orange Beach side. We're talking about a softened 4-laning, very much like Via de Luna on Pensacola Beach, for the purpose of accelerating the safety issue first. That was the reason. Now we are looking, and possibly will have a hotel here in the near future. Not 10 like Pensacola Beach, but my words, give us one. And if that's the case, they're asking the same question too. What are you going to do? Oh, by the way, the Kenny Chesney concert is in a few weeks. There's going to be over 30,000 vehicles packing the Floribama. We're going to have backed up traffic for miles. When you see that event occur, ask yourself whether the 4-laning is needed or not.
I don't live out here in Perdido Key, so I don't travel the road much. But from talking to residents of Perdido Key, what I find is that the road widening, or the fear of the road widening, has more to do with zoning and development issues than the actual road. I used to work in Orange Beach and drive back and forth across out here 3 or 4 years ago. And I really never found a problem with traffic, but of course I was driving at 11, 12 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. I think that, like I said, what I've talked to the residents out there about is more of the fear of the development and what would happen if the 4-lane would open up the zoning in the area. And having also worked in Panama City, you know, I know what the fear is. The fear is the concrete canyons lining the beach where the people who live on River Road don't even know they're on the beach anymore. That is not something I want to see. What we need is to have a county commissioner who is actually working with the zoning laws to keep these kind of developments from down and working with the people who already live out there to make those zoning laws the way they need to be. You know, hotels on the beach are great, but do we need a whole line, 14, 15, 16 miles of concrete canyon? I don't believe we do. And I don't believe the residents I talked to from Perdido Key believe that either. You know, for the safety issue of the road, and we talked about different plans and whether or not we would accept different plans. To me, everything should be on the table. When we look at the best options, we talk to the people in the community, we go out, we find the best options, and then we work on those zoning laws so that everybody's interests are protected. Thank you.
I'm not going to commit to an answer on what I think is correct or not with the 4-laning. I read the 2011 survey, so I have a good feel of what the people here in Perdido Key want. I think there are 2 major concerns, and I'm going to express them without them being in any particular order. Stormwater drainage is certainly an issue. The more concrete we put down, the more asphalt we put down, that certainly affects that issue here, and that is an important issue here. Also, it affects the flow of water, so we have to consider that. We also need to wait and listen to what the Fish and Wildlife Service has to say about our natural habitat here. We have animals that need beach to nest on, and we need to allow them to figure out what has to do with the mice as they cross the road. Okay, so we have to take a look at that. That is a concern, okay? But public input is important too, and I'm a good listener. Okay, so we may have to look at that, whether we lose hundreds of millions of dollars or not, on what that master plan was. I know from experience, having fought traffic lights before, when you go shopping at Cordova Mall, I want you to know they were going to cut down 2 trees at the corner of Bayou and 12th to widen that intersection there, and I hugged those trees, and they are standing today, okay? So I know what it's like to fight at a TPO meeting and win, okay? So they do change their mind on things, okay? But we also need to create pedestrian-safe areas and jogging, biking paths. I believe in that wholeheartedly. So, and I also want to say one thing real quick. It's got a yellow flag here. When you're driving 35 miles an hour, and this is true on Main Street in Pensacola, and they have pedestrian crosswalks, it is so difficult when there's a car behind you to stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So that is even too fast. So 4-laning with a high speed is not possible. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, as you can imagine, I am going to take a position on this. I am opposed to the 4-lane Perdido Key corridor plan because I've read it. Okay? The 4-lane plan, keep in mind, it's actually a 7-lane when you add the turn lanes in at the intersections. Okay? It is a massive development project that will put a strip of asphalt right down the middle of this island. I'm opposed to this plan because, for a lot of different reasons. First of all, there's flawed data collection, flawed data analysis, and the end result is something ultimately that we as the citizens here on Perdido Key have said over and over again, this is not what we're looking for. Most of us had the opportunity who purchased here, could have purchased on Pensacola Beach, could have purchased anywhere else. We chose to live here because of the village atmosphere. Think about the title of that plan, the Perdido Key Corridor Plan. Folks, Perdido Key is not a corridor. Perdido Key is a community, and we deserve a community plan. The issues that we have with traffic is only a part of the equation. We do have issues here on this island of traffic, and they need to be solved. When Andres Duaney came up and worked on the DPZ master plan, he addressed those issues. And all the math and all the ways that he was able to run it, he was unable to say that we're going to need a 4-lane either today or ever, because when we build out this island to its capacity, it still does not need a 4-lane. It absolutely needs additional lanes of traffic and turning lanes, traffic calming measures in some areas, and areas that will speed up the flow of traffic in others. But the most important thing that we have to understand on Perdido Key is that this is an environmentally delicate area here. Whatever plan we have, and this is the flaw of the DPZ master plan, but it's what we can correct as citizens. Any plan that we have, that master plan that we implement, must have the environmental interests at the table, because whether you like it or not, they have a lot of sway over what we can and cannot do here. Environmental interests, WCI as our primary property owner here on the Key, and the citizens all sitting down at the table, hammering out a community plan for Perdido Key. That's the solution.
Okay, move on to our third question. District 2 has a significant crime rate. How would you, as our commissioner, lead the fight on crime in our district and the whole county?
When it comes to crime in the community, there's the short answer and then there's the long answer. The short answer is to hire more deputies, put them on the street and lock people up. The long answer is that we need to improve the lives and the hope of the people who live in the community to prevent the crime to begin with. Kids who are growing up in these high crime areas, of which I live in Warrenton, they find themselves without hope. They find themselves in an education system where they're going to graduate or not graduate, lacking any job skills to begin with. That kind of disparity in the county leads to things like drug abuse. It leads to things like crime. The lack of community that is being built in the county leads to crime. In the past, in the communities, we used to grow up, we'd run around the streets of my neighborhood, and people in the neighborhood all knew who we were. By the time we got home, we were getting our butts wet for everything we did in the neighborhood. Today, it's different. I live in my house and I own it, the people across the street own theirs, but everything else is rentals. Because people in this county aren't making enough, aren't doing well enough to buy homes. And when they buy homes, they create their neighborhoods, they create their communities, and they set community standards that people live by. And without those community standards, and without those sense of community, the people get lost. They get lost in drugs, they get lost in crime. So that is the long answer for what we need to do to prevent crime in Escambia County. The short answer, like I said, is that we need to help fund the Sheriff's Department. We need to put more deputies on the street. But we need to do things also to prevent the long view of crime. Thank you very much.
Part of the reason there is crime is poverty. Workforce education is an effort to reduce poverty, which brings jobs to the people. Also, having a presence out there with our Sheriff's Department, our Police Department. LOST funds do provide an extra source of revenue for our Sheriff's Department, so I'd like to see that continue, and I do believe that the residents of Escambia County will, when LOST funds come back on the ballot, renew LOSTs. That will provide an extra source. I believe I said that. I'd like to see more sheriff's substations. I know that was an issue at one time that Perdido Key was asked if they wanted a substation out here. We need to see that in more places in those areas where crime is an issue. I'd like to see resource officers, but I don't want to see resource officers where they are arresting children in schools for minor things, but more as where they build relationships with children, so that when they are leaving school, they feel comfortable with the officers. So those are some of the ideas that I have for preventing crime. But working with our sheriff, not fighting with our sheriff, is certainly something that I'd like to move forward with. I think that's it.
It's usually a good idea for a politician to stop talking when somebody says, yeah. But actually, that was a very interesting point, and one that absolutely we must understand. The question was fairly odd in that what can we do as a county commissioner to lead the charge or take charge on the crime issue? And the truth of the matter is that not everything in the county is the county commissioner supposed to be at the lead on. Okay? Some things you have to let the other elected officials take the lead on. And some things we actually have to step back and say, I really don't care who gets credit for it, as long as it gets done. It's very important that we fully fund our Sheriff's Department. It's great that we're saving money, that we're lowering debt. But if we're doing that at the cost of public safety, then are we really taking care of the number one responsibility that a government has, and that is to protect the lives and the property of its people? I think the answer obviously is no. We are currently staffed at roughly 1.3 deputies per 1,000 citizens in the neighborhoods. Okay? Florida Department of Law Enforcement says the standard is 1.7. Now keep in mind that So we clearly are below the standard, and we don't have enough troops on the ground as it is. But keep in mind that what that means, that's the standard to maintain a static condition at a desirable position. That it requires more deputies than that to actually move the ball forward. Okay? Why do we worry too much about that out here on Perdido Key? Okay? It's not our neighborhoods where those deputies are in. It's not our neighborhoods that have to have that high density of deputies. But if you think about what's happening here, basic math is basic math. They're triaged. The deputies are spending more of their time in neighborhoods, which means ultimately we have fewer deputies out here in places like Perdido Key. This issue affects all of us, and when we start looking at the budget, we need to staff those who protect our lives and our property first. That is not a want, that's a need. Thank you very much.
I won't be a puppet of the sheriff. I will be your steward and accountable to you first. If I'm in question about the monies used to fund law enforcement, I have an entitlement, because I work for you, to make sure that I'm getting the value we deserve out of the sheriff's department. I am not about to spend $18 million at his request on a jail that we took over and did with no tax increase to you.
That was insurance money.
Are you the moderator? Would you tell her not to say?
I will.
And I'll take an extra 10 seconds.
Please.
I'm sorry. Should be.
You've done that at every time, and I don't appreciate it.
I just ask that everybody treat everybody.
Thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you.
This is an election. We're all going to be friends when it's over.
You can wait.
Absolutely.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Miller.
It's all right. More important than that, the neighborhood down in Navy Boulevard at our Coffee with the Commissioner meeting came in and said, hey, we have a law enforcement problem in the Warrington area. And a year and a half later, there was a $4 million substation built on Navy Boulevard. We listened and we responded. It was a way of being able to be more responsive to the folks in that area that were demanding more immediate response for the crime act area. As Mr. Underhill suggested, we're not in the law enforcement business. We set policy. And it's very important that we let law enforcement do their job. And I'm not afraid to pay them to do their job and give them raises. They're entitled to that. But be accountable just as you expect me to.
Okay. We're going to focus on education next. And I'm asking each of you, how would you as our commissioner work with the school system to make sure there's a plan in place for the needs of the future and to avoid last-minute problems due to a lack of planning and communication for our education of our kids. So I think we're starting with Ms. Moore.
Well, I think we already addressed that when we talked about jobs, but I've already reached out to Dr. Taylor, like I said, in workforce education. I think the best thing that we can do, we're not running for the school board, but when we talk about community redevelopment in the areas that are in our district, making sure that the areas around our school are kept neat and clean and upkept, that is part of that area. That area of concern. Also that we keep a focus with our community and that we are in touch with our constituents, that we keep them abreast of what is happening in the schools, so both higher education and lower education, and that we're present at the meetings. I think that's probably the most important thing. I've been complimented about how many meetings I'm attending, and that even as a candidate, that my presence is being known in the community. So attending meetings, putting yourself out there as a community leader in these education circles, in the community circles, going to these improvement meetings, just making yourself present in the education system. Thank you.
Thank you. First and foremost, what we need to do, and again, each other speaker is obviously going to say, you know, running for county commissioner, not for school district. But that's kind of a quick dodge on a very complex problem. And again, this is one of those issues where it's not for us as county commissioners to be front and center, it's for us to be enablers. Okay? We talk a lot, I mean, it's funny, each one of these issues, it's nice that these are the same questions that keep coming up in every one of these that we do. Because it means that these are the same issues that everybody cares about within the county. What we need to be doing as, not just as county commissioners, but we as citizens need to be doing to enable the school system to move forward, is that we need to get our businesses out of the office space and into the schoolhouse through mentorship. Okay? We look at these failed schools, and the one thing that you'll find missing oftentimes is one, or in some cases both, of the biological parents. There's a lot of social issues that go along with that, but the most important thing that's happening is that those kids don't have an adult role model in their lives showing them the life that they could have. Okay? And more often than not, unfortunately, they're living a life where the paradigm is constantly reinforced that they ain't nobody from nowhere and they ain't going nowhere. We can change that, and I'll tell you where we can change it first is in Warrington, right here in District 2. Because we have so many exceptional workers in Warrington. You guys don't see them very often because they're on the other side of that chain link fence. Working in tech industries, knowledge-based industries, which is the future of the American economy. And we need to find ways to get them off Corey Station into the schoolhouse, providing positive role models, not just for how, you know, that top tier of the ladder of how great things can be and you can make six figures like this, but we need to show those kids what the first and second tiers of that ladder are as well, and how they can get from where they are today into a more secure life. I believe that's what we as the county commissioners can do to help.
Yeah, I think whether it's defined or not, education is absolutely essential and vital that the leadership in the community step up and do something. At one level, real quick, when we were in Hamburg and Bremen and Berlin on visiting with the subcontract vendor network of Airbus, we hope to be able to draw to the Beulah Road area. We had the Vice President of the University of West Florida with us and Pensacola State College with us. The Germans were asking, hey, what are you going to do to train these folks? And I'm saying, here, and I just yielded to them. I said, would you explain to them what we're, and this university system of the community is going to step up and help train our local people first before the outsiders. We want to take care of our own first, and that's the plan. Now at an elementary school level, we are working with Malcolm Thomas on several programs. One in particular that I started was the workshop program we have inside the county commission chambers, where I bring the kids in for an afternoon and we teach them about democracy at the state, federal, local level. I put them up on the dais and they get a chance to vote on an issue and debate, learn Robert's rules and parliamentary procedure. It's very good for the kids. And very educated. On a different level though, we all need to step up and help mentor. I'm a mentor. I know other people are mentors of these elementary school kids. And spend a few hours a week, a month, whatever it is, and help them help themselves. The reason? 68% of the lunches in the Escambia County system are a result of people using it because they can't get a meal at home. The relative comparison is Santa Rosa County at less than 24%. We do have poverty in this area. So while we're bringing in people to inject the economy and bring in new and high-paying jobs, in parallel we're looking to train and improve and refurbish the resources we have. They're not unrelated, they go hand in glove, and we have to do it in a concerted effort with the cooperation of our school system.
Actually, my first answer was more of an education answer, but this question actually goes near and dear to my heart because I live in Warrenton and I have school-aged children. A couple months back, Warrenton Middle School had a meeting. They sent out a notice on Friday, I guess, in the news, on Sunday in the newspaper, and on Monday they did an audit call for a meeting they were having on Tuesday. Now, living in a working class neighborhood and being a working class person, I kind of understand why nobody showed up for this meeting. No, on Friday afternoon I was at work, wasn't watching the news. And if you live on a budget, you're not subscribing to the newspaper, you're not getting that on Sunday. And on Monday when the phone call comes and you arrive at work the next day, you're already scheduled, you're not taking off. What we forget about sometimes in county government, school district, is that we forget that sometimes we're excluding people and we don't even know we're doing it. Because we're not thinking about the circumstances of everybody. You know, for me, myself, I would have loved to have gone to that meeting because we have 2 kids in the 4th grade who are going to the 5th grade who 1 year from now will be going to Warrenton and he failed in school. Actually coming out of one felony school into another felony school. You know, it surprises me that District 2 in the school board is one of the worst districts in the whole state of Florida, and nobody ran for school board. Not one person. I tried to talk my wife into doing it, but she's scared to stand up and talk to people. So this question is near and dear to me. And the thing is that we need a perspective from these working class neighborhoods. You know, we talked about we need to bring in mentors. But if you go out and you say, well, this person's from Maryland and he grew up in this kind of family and he went to Harvard and you could be just like him. A kid from Warrenton isn't going to see that. What we need is to go out there and find the people in our local community who grew up here. You know, somebody asked me one day, what 4 years looking back on being a county commissioner, what would be your greatest achievement? And I said it would be to stand up in front of a Warrenton Elementary School class and say, hey kids, just because you're from this neighborhood and you went to this school, doesn't mean you're a second-class citizen. That you can be anything you want to be. And that's what we need to do in education. We need to show those kids that we actually care. That's the first thing that we need to do. And then we need to show their parents that we want to include them and not exclude them. And we have to think about the ways that we're going to do that. Thank you.
Okay, as we all know, Escambia County depends very heavily on the U.S. Navy presence here, and base realignment closure hearings always make us fearful that our base will be closed at some point. So I ask you, how would you as our commissioner protect NAS Pensacola, Corey, the ability for the base to be secure, to expand, and would you want to see the joint land use study be implemented? So I think we start with
Well, obviously, I'm a big fan of the bases since it's the bases that brought me here. As a naval officer, I understand the pressures that the base is under. As a county commissioner, I can bring that mindset to our side of that negotiation and make sure that we are that we actually understand those things and that we protect the things that are important to the military. But it's unfortunate really that we bring up BRAC and a fear of losing what we've already got, because folks, if that's the way you're thinking, you're not thinking about the future right. It's not about just protecting what we got. It's how do we grow with the future that we have, the future that's in front of us. The future that's in front of us is knowledge-based industries, specifically cyber. I've been involved in cyber since 2002, right here on Corey Station. Believe it or not, Pensacola is at the cutting edge of the cyber industry, of cybersecurity. We've been doing it, and we do it rather quietly. Our PR folks just ain't quite that good in the secret business, right? But this industry has been growing rapidly right under our noses. Knowledge-based industries are phenomenal because if the knowledge-based industry most of you would be familiar with is law. Law is a knowledge-based industry, and at every law firm you've got 5 or 6 names on the wall. But working also with good quality paying jobs, there's another 40 people serving those lawyers, right, in terms of paralegals and whatnot. Knowledge-based industries are good for those top-level jobs. They're also good for all of the other rungs on that ladder. That's all happening right here. You want to protect these bases, you make sure that Pensacola and Escambia County stay at the tip of the spear on these knowledge-based industries. You focus on the Department of Homeland Security and the new $220 person facility that was built at Corey Station last year, DISA, and the National Security Agency, all of which have a massive presence here, all growing. We're already at the tip of that spear. We focus on growing that, and we focus on staying exceptional and providing exceptional service to the U.S. government in those areas. You don't have to worry about your bases closing. Thank you.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, we actually goes all the way back to just before Christmas, we wrapped up the acquisition of over 600 acres of land in Santa Rosa County with the local option sales tax dollars. You say to yourself, well, why would we be buying land over in Santa Rosa County with Escambia County tax dollars on LOST? And the answer is the Navy was cooperating with us and agreed with the concept that there was a strategic and military advantage to move OLF 8 up near Beulah Road and Navy Federal Credit Union into Santa Rosa County, opening up the opportunity for us to receive the equivalent value, 640 acres of land right off Interstate 10 that I was referencing earlier with that exit ramp. And the 4-lane of 9 Mile Road all the way past Navy Boulevard, Navy Federal Credit Union back east all the way to 29. Those are partnership conversations we're having with the United States Navy right now. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, they're not going anywhere. The BRAC closures around the nation that occurred were when the military presence was not into the community. The military presidents of Corey Station and NAS Pensacola are really directly involved. They've got their tentacles into our community. For example, 2 days ago, Keith Hoskins, commanding officer of the base, and I finished the negotiations for what might seem a simple request, but it was very complicated. Floribama needed desperately the extra parking for that congestion we talked about. And for the first time in history, the federal government created a new precedent and allowed for joint participation for public-private service to allow for parking for this Kenny Chesney concert. Now, why would the United States military be giving parking out to it? Because they recognize their role is expanding and morphing, and that they must become more part of the community. We have a great relationship with them. I was with Janet Napolitano at Homeland Security during the BP oil crisis, and it was a hand-in-glove relationship during that period of time as well. I'm very proud, and I think they're staying, and we're going to do more together in the future to answer your question.
Having grown up in Escambia County, my view on the military here has changed. You know, when I was an 18-year-old kid, they were just competition for girls. You know, then I realized how much economic impact the military does have. You know, but the problem is that too much of our economic thought has centered on two different things, military and tourism. And we can't have an economy that's just based on two things. You know, when we talk about the other things that we were earlier with economic development, we have to talk about the things that we can also do. We have to protect tourism, and that's one of the things about what we're doing at DOT. We have to protect our military, and we also have to create a separate economy, because we can't have, we saw what happened after the oil spill, we see what happens after Iden, when we rely too heavily on one or two industries for our economy. It hurts us all. You know, we need to do what we can to protect the military and the military mission here in Escambia County. And I agree that what we need to do is focus on those things that will keep the military here. Creating the jobs in the service sector here that service the military, and by expanding on that, we make them so reliant on us they can never move. And that's what I believe that we need to do as Escambia County. And the way we do that is go back and re-educate our kids and create opportunities for them to accomplish that mission for us. You know, we need to get people like Doug into our schools and teach our kids about cybersecurity and infrastructure that the military is going to need. So that's why he should be the county commissioner, because we need him to do that.
No, now.
That sounds like a plan.
Point of order.
I started talking about it to begin with, was finding the people who are already in the community and finding the roles and bringing them out and getting them to do the things that that we need them to do in order to better Escambia County.
That was,
Just wrong.
I gotta say, that was the most clever comment he's made. That's the most clever comment you've made since you've been on the job.
Well, allow me to drop a name. I am not just a pretty face. Okay? I did attend Senator Nelson's press conference the other day, and he did mention BRAC, and he said we did not have to worry. Okay, so allow me to tell you that. Okay, straight from his mouth. Okay. Also, saving our military bases is not just about the mission that they currently have here. Saving our military bases is also about the people they bring and the people that return. You know, I am a product of a military base here, but I'm also a product of somebody that came back. Military retirees are a great source of revenue when they come back here to Escambia County, and we can't forget that. They buy homes here, they shop here, they live here for a long time. So that is another reason to secure that. Thank you.
Okay, that's the 5 questions we have. I hope each and every one of you has enjoyed this as much as I have. I got a lot out of it. I learned a lot from each of these guys, and I honestly think we should applaud all of them. I'm impressed with they give up a lot to do this. It's not an easy job. It was everyone to do it. Public service is something that, for all of you who deal with the public, I don't even have to say. But I thank you all for coming. I know that there's sure, okay. We're going to get a closing remark from me. It starts with, I think Mr. Valentino might be next. Is that right? Great.
Thank you so much. I don't know what to say. The fact is, I'm just grateful of having had the chance to serve you for the last 8 years. I think what I need not to do is say less. And I ask you to go to www.gvalentino.com. There you'll find my accomplishments. My accomplishments speak much better and much more than my words. And I'd ask you to take a look at some of the things that I've forgotten about, frankly. I just realized when you drive out of here tonight, look at the sidewalk on River Road. That was one of my first projects. Now, all the way around, including the bike path. I've tried to be very vigilant in making sure Perdido, when I first came on the job, there was a lot of anger and resentment because they thought that Perdido Key was the red-haired stepchild. And I, with a passion, stepped up to try to make sure you weren't. And I hope you see that, absent anything else. I've also tried to create an environment of transparency. If you can't reach us between me and Dean, I don't know what to say. We've tried to avail of ourselves. It's more than it's more than 8 hours a day, I'll tell you that much. We have the coffee with the commissioner meetings, and if you can't make that at 7:30 in the morning, check it out on the website. Please just call our office, and if there's something specific to you, I welcome a private meeting with you directly, and I'll figure out how to shepherd it through the minefield to get your mission accomplished. We are faced with so many issues, over 700 projects totaling over $250 million, plus the cost of whatever the jail becomes, is at hand. We have to figure out how to fund this without dipping into taxes. The taxes manage the operational side of things for the most part. The local option sales tax has generated about $35 to $45 million a year based on the revenue of the year. And that's money we've done a lot of infrastructure stuff with, including the sidewalk out there. But there's so many more opportunities for us. We need to create an incentive plan for jobs. I've been appointed by my fellow commissioners to be the point man on economic development. Each commissioner kind of gravitates into his area of expertise. Mine is economic development. And I was so proud to represent not only the 4 of the commissioners, but you as well. And I can tell you they're not junkets and joyrides. We're working our tail off to bring jobs here. And no matter what everybody tells you, I promise you, the days are long and hardworking. I promise you, we're going to do everything we can to bring more jobs to this community. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here today. I know I'm not the best public speaker. I'm actually going to Toastmasters and learn how to do this. You know, I've always been better one-on-one. That's why over the last 8 years I've been a canvasser for many different politicians running different campaigns. You know, and as I go through the communities, through my job, either dealing with the public as a sushi chef or as a cook, or as a community organizer or as a canvassing coordinator for different campaigns, going around and talking to people in different neighborhoods. And what I found over the last couple of years is that we all seem to be in the same predicament. Whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, whether you live in Perdido Key, or whether you live in Warrenton, and that's in response of government.
I sat in the county commission chambers during the public forum when the residents of Wedgwood showed up in their orange t-shirts. And I want to reflect on that for a minute. About 90% of them were women. And that's a powerful thing. They all wore orange t-shirts. And these were moms, mothers, grandmothers, okay? They had something to say. And if you've been following that news in the newspaper, they moved mountains. They moved mountains of debris, but they moved them, and they got something done. And they've taken a little step back, but if you understand what I'm trying to say to you, okay, that is the voice that I want to bring to the county commission. I want to bring that female voice back in there. I want to bring an informed female voice to the county commission. I think that's missing. I want to change the diversity of it. I want to change the dynamic of it. And I ask for your vote. A vote for me is a vote for more for Escambia County and more for District 2. Thank you.
Folks, we've touched base a little bit, only a very short period of time, on the three major issues really that are affecting Escambia County that whoever wins these elections is going to have to face. Let's face it, it's not going to be a fun 4 years to be a county commissioner. We've got the Wedgwood dump issue, we've got the flooding issue, and we've got the jail that blew up. Now keep in mind when we're talking about the jail, that's Crisis 2.0. Crisis 1.0 is the fact that the DOJ was already having to look at us and manage our behavior because we had not done a very good job of doing it ourselves. We have a lot of difficult work ahead of us in those three issues. Any one of those three issues can destroy a county. We've got to deal with all three of them at the same time. On top of that, we are also seeing our economy turning around, and we see opportunity coming up for development, opportunity for growth. Okay, as you look and you drive down Perdido Key Drive, you see an awful lot of for sale signs on the beachfront property. And what each one of those signs says is that the owner of that property is not prepared to do a risk-reward assessment to figure out a way that he can profit from that property. The reason that you can't do a good risk-reward assessment and plan ahead here on Perdido Key is because we do not have a master plan in place. As this economy starts to rev up again and we start developing on this island again, this is our last best chance to get this right. These are all things that need to be done here in Escambia County, here in District 2, and the leadership in District 2 is very important to make sure that we get that right in the next 4 years. I am the only one here who has been endorsed by 3 members of the ECUA, the sheriff, the Police Benevolent Association, as well as the Fraternal Order of Police. What that tells you is not that I am a puppet. It tells you that those are people who you've already elected to do these things for you, who say, when they look at us and they say, Doug Underhill is somebody that I can sit down at the table with and I can have an honest civil discourse with and I can solve these problems. Folks, having that kind of support doesn't make you a puppet, it makes you a teammate.